This episode of Inside Golf Podcast is brought to you by Inside Sports Network.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Boston Capital Twitter, Steve, on the Hold the Green podcast.
All right, we are live. Tap in, birdie.
All right, Carson Young is here.
I bet Ludvig at 28.
Let's go. I bet
You
him
did
at,
too?
I bet him at 25.
Low sevens. I think there's some guys in here we like.
Harris English at 7,300.
I love Brian Harmon at 3.5% this week.
What's up, guys? It's producer Cam here. ISN is now partnered with Shorty's Golf. Shorty's Golf is designed to provide kids with the perfect introduction to the game of golf by offering high-quality clubs and equipment specifically tailored to their need. They offer custom sizes for various age groups, ensuring that the kids have clubs that are tailored to their height and strength. They feature fun, vibrant colors and lightweight stand bags that are easily adjustable. Each set features real stainless steel clubs, high-quality materials, and sturdy construction, making them long-lasting while providing a real golf experience. So go check them out, golfshorties.com. Use ISN15 at checkout for $15 off your purchase.
All right, we are live. U.S. Open week. One of my favorite weeks of the year. Probably my favorite week of the year. RB, how are you doing today on this Monday afternoon? Great energy this week. I feel like totally different energy this week. It feels like compared to Quail Hollow.
For sure. I think Oakmont certainly brings that. Obviously, U.S. Open brings that. I'm excited because I can stop thinking about Sam Burns.
Oh, my God, man. My God.
That disgrace of a playoff. Yeah, he was my biggest bet of the week on the insider sheet, one and done, everything. So that sucked.
That was miserable. It completely ruined my day. And I was really bummed out because I woke up that morning and I was like super hyped to record my US Open Sunday solo pod. Usually the Sunday solo pod, I procrastinated all week. It's like my least favorite part of the week because it's hard. Like it's the hardest part of my job. 100% is to talk for an hour straight, generally about a pretty dense topic like the agronomy and required skill set of the course. Yeah. And I thought I did an awesome Sunday pod where I was like, I feel really confident in my pick. I'm so fired up for Oakmont. Like I said, the energy and the discourse in our Discord this week has been incredible. This is the place to be if you're playing DFS this week. This is the forefront of DFS discussion is happening in this Discord. Even if you don't like us and don't want to hang with us, you should still just be in the Discord and lurk because there's so many good DFS players that are in there talking that even if you don't want to be a part of it and hang out with us, you will get a lot of valuable insight just by lurking in there and seeing what other people are doing and talking about. And the energy has been awesome this week for Oakmont. I'm so fired up about the course. And I was like, God, Sam Burns is going to fucking do it for us. Community win in our Discord. It was a bet that makes sense. You and I both talked about it a ton on the show. He had flipped the irons, he was already the best putter in the world. It was a golf course that we both thought you could separate based on his kind of dopey skill set of just gaining a bazillion strokes putting and hitting a bunch of wedges and middle irons close on very dull and banal architecture. And I don't know what the fuck happened in that playoff. He wasn't even hitting good putts.
Wasn't hitting good putts. Obviously didn't hit any good wedges except for the first playoff hole, and then missed the putt. He's had success in Canada before. It all seemed to be trending back up. He played great, was there all week. And Ryan Fox, that kind of sucked too. He threw some darts down the stretch, obviously made a long putt to get into the playoff. But you sort of felt it coming. As soon as he birdied, I think it was number 15, he stuck it to 3 feet. I just knew what was happening. And I was like, I got beat by Ryan Fox a month ago, and it's
at Myrtle.
Yeah, and it's coming again. So
I don't really have too much more to say on it. We have a lot to talk about with Oakmont. I'm super fired up from this DFS slate.
I do want a victory lap. That Griot was number 1 in ball striking last week. So,
yeah, we were all over it. I had actually, you know what? I will say I did not have a good DFS week. Like
same.
Minus.
I had Rory. I assume you had Rory too. So
I had Rory, and listen, I know why I played Rory, and we'll talk more about Rory as it pertains to this week. Did you see what Data Golf put him at this morning?
I did.
Why is he 30 to 1 on Data Golf?
Winning? I have no idea. I guess
that feels like a bit like an overreaction. No,
it's a huge overreaction. I guess they might be weighing accuracy a little bit heavier than usual this week, but it didn't impact Bryson, so I don't know.
Well, Bryson's hitting it straight right now.
Yeah.
I will say this about Rory. I thought, if Data Golf was low on Rory this week, they would put him at 18 or 22 to 1, right? Like he's 12 to 1 by the books. And I don't think that number is going to take a lot of action. Like Rory was 7 to 1 consensus a couple days ago. And he had 2 bad rounds in Canada where basically I was watching that Friday morning round on ESPN Plus. He started out like 3 over through 5 and was just done. Like he didn't.
Yeah.
You can throw out those statistics from the rest of his round because he completely checked out and knew that he was going to miss the cut. Like, whether he shot 73 or 78, it really didn't matter to him. So I hope that Data Golf isn't valuing like 14 holes where he just didn't give a shit too much. I think there might actually be some real opportunity on Rory this week based on ownership now that Data Golf has him at 30 to 1.
Sure.
Going to say is going to be sub 10%. Like I think at Rory's price, the ownership projections in a second here. I want to ask if you have anything more to say about the golf course, but I think that Rory, based on what, how he finished in Canada and the Data Golf pricing, I think there's going to be tremendous. I think him and Justin Thomas are going to be the two lowest guys over 9K. Would you consider Rory at this price, or do you just think he doesn't have it right now? And this is a golf course where if you're not firing on all cylinders, I'm not going to take that risk with a player that's priced that high, because Rory is not like taking a chance on a guy at a lower price tag. Like we saw it happened to us last week. If you get Rory wrong and he misses the cut for you, or even finishes T54, like you're cooked.
Yeah, I would say I'm more inclined to play Rory this week because of the ownership. Obviously, he has an elite U.S. Open record. Only won once.
He hasn't finished out. Rory has, I believe, 8 top 15s in a U.S. Open in a row. He has been statistically the most consistent U.S. Open player of the last decade. He's not finished outside the top 15 in a U.S. Open in the last, I believe it's 8 years.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously you're looking at a spot where the guy above him is going to be 30%. The guy below him is going to be 30%. And it just doesn't leave much room for Rory. So yeah, I think, if Rory's 10, 12% owned, he's going to be a third of what Bryson is, a third of what Scottie is. I think you have to play him. Yeah.
Let's talk a touch about Oakmont. I will say this. I wrote 3,000 words on InsideSportsNetwork.com about Oakmont. I've done now 3 preview podcasts on Oakmont. One where I talked about it with Zach Blair, which just got posted to YouTube. You should check that out. It's a great pod. One where I talked about it with Steve Bamford, and then one also where I talked about it solo. I feel very confident in my course breakdown of Oakmont. I can tell you one thing I am not falling for this week is like people going to the golf course and saying like somebody's striping or the rough is extra thick. All that shit is baked into my model. Okay. I know I'm confident in my course breakdown. There's one guy that I'm speaking to at the golf course, Joseph Lamagna. I don't really care what anyone else has to say about the golf course that's there. I trust Joseph and I trust my course breakdown. I'm ready for Oak. What say you about the golf course?
Yeah, I know you didn't want to talk about this, but I was talking with Joseph the other day, and he's trying to get an interview with Cameron Young. So I was shooting questions at him. Be like, you got to get us this information.
Listen, I support this Cameron Young thing. He's not my guy. I think he is so fucking disappointing. And I will give you a full opportunity to sell the listeners on Cameron Young this week because he was a good play last week. Why was he 17%? In DraftKings?
I have no clue. I mean, I guess he was underpriced. He was like mid sevens, but hey, now he's 6,500. So, but yeah, he was great. So yeah, I mean, Oakmont, it's your quintessential major golf course. Like you can comp it to whatever you want. Bethpage, Oak Hill, Winged Foot, even Torrey Pines to an extent.
I think Winged Foot's the one. If I'm being honest, I think Winged Foot's the one because what's different about Winged Foot and Oakmont from like Bethpage and Oak Hill, and I'll give you Oak Hill as an example because that golf course I've played a gazillion times and know super well. And I played Winged Foot too. I haven't played Oakmont, but the difference between Oak Hill and Winged Foot is the greens. Like Oak Hill has kind of small, flat-ish greens, and Winged Foot has these giant, like undulating, big, wide green complexes. Like some of them are like giant squares. Like if you look at the green for the 9th hole at Oakmont, it's the entire putting green for the golf course. For the whole practice putting area is the 9th green. Like these green complexes are these giant, like big squares, and where on a lot of cases you can run the ball up, and Winged Foot has that too, where you can actually run the ball up in a lot of cases.
Yeah. And I think, those larger green sizes obviously allow more pin locations. I think we're going to see plenty of different ones this year, and really puts an emphasis on the iron play because you have to get it into the right area or quadrant, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, obviously a ton of videos out already on the rough. I don't think that's anything unexpected that it's going to be long, cabbagey, and beefy.
Don't fall for that shit. You guys know it has thick rough. It's already a part of the breakdown. I'm not saying you don't fall for that shit, but I think our listeners and our Discord members, they're not falling for that shit. They already know it's going to be thick. It's already a part of their breakdown. Like we get it. Sick.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, I think like you said, Winged Foot, probably the most obvious comp. And yeah, when Bryson won there by like a touchdown.
6.
It was him, Wolf. I mean, Louis hits it far enough. Harris English, DJ, Xander, Rory was up there. Like
JT finished 8th. Patrick Webb Simpson actually finished 8th. Zach Johnson finished 8th at Winged Foot. And I will say this, it's going to be the same shit at Oakmont. Is that like there's two things at Oakmont, and I talked about this in the Sunday pod, so I'm not going to belabor this point, but I think there are two serious avenues where you can separate on this golf course. Awesome driving is one of them. Everybody knows that. Like you could do the Bryson thing, and if you're long and straight, you have a serious advantage. There's also going to be players in the top 10 of the leaderboard at Oakmont this week that are fucking nasty putters. And that's what Webb Simpson and Zach Johnson did at Winged Foot in 2020 is they gained over 6 strokes putting. And that same thing is going to happen at Oakmont this week as well. So, do you want to, the only difference I would say between driving and putting is that driving is generally easier to predict. And so that's why we're probably going to end up playing more great drivers than we are great putters, is because it's easier for you to look at driving stats and predict great driving. Distance is a lot more predictive than putt, if that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah. And again, like it's a US Open. If if someone gets super hot with the irons and they're hitting every fairway, like, yeah, they can play this golf course. Like, is Straka going to be up there? Probably, right? I mean, the dude's going to hit every fairway. He's a great iron player. Like, I could see Hatton up there. We'll talk about Neiman a bit, right? Like, I don't think you need to bomb it here, but obviously the majority of the guys up there will be the longer hitters because they're the best players. It's just, it's what it is.
The way that I described it in the Sunday pod is I think the guy that wins will be long and straight, but I don't think that you need to be long at all to finish top 10, like I said. And honestly, I doubt it, but I mean, could the winner be the guy that gains 11 strokes putting like Matty Schmid was almost about to do at Colonial?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Probably not.
But probably not. But
Yeah.
I do think like somebody says, Danny in the chat. I do think guys like that are viable as well. I think lag putting to me is like the third or fourth at worst most important skill this week. So, okay, we're pretty much on similar pages about the golf course. Let's talk about Scottie Scheffler. It's kind of uncharted territory for him at $14,000 for 14.4K. So,
that's a lot. Yeah.
When you look at this price tag, and what do you think?
I think it's doable. Obviously, we go down to the 5K range this week, which certainly helps a lot. I think if you click Scottie, you're still in the low sevens pretty much for the rest of your team.
It leaves you about $7,300. It leaves you 7,120.
Right? Yeah. So look, I mean, what are you going to say about him? He's playing tremendously well. Every golf course suits him. Oakmont should suit him just fine. If you can build a viable lineup, like I will certainly have Scottie teams this week. There's no doubt about it.
But if Scottie's 30 or 40%,
yeah,
I mean, is this a 150 week for you, RB? Like what's contest selection for you this week? Are you playing in the Millie Maker?
I will, but not 150. No, I'm more of a single entry player. I'll do 20 max stuff quite a bit. So that's sort of where I'm leaning. And yeah, probably have a handful of Scottie teams and a handful not. Yeah, I think he'll be right around 30%. I think Bryson will be higher owned than Scottie this week. I'll say that.
Agree.
I think there's no doubt that
I firmly agree that Bryson will be higher owned than Scottie this week. And I am leading that charge.
Yeah. But again, there's a ton of good plays in the sevens. There's a ton of guys I like in the sixes. So if like I have the option to either play Scottie or to pair like, I don't know, Bryson and Xander, like I'm probably just going to play Scottie. It's very viable. So
yeah, I mean, okay. So I thought that at Quail Hollow, Bryson and Scottie, it was always going to be a 2-horse race between those guys. And I felt from start to finish, that tournament basically always was a 2-horse race. I could see Oakmont being pretty similar. What I ended up doing in DFS at Quail is I ended up betting Scottie outright and playing Bryson in DFS because Bryson was giving you a significant amount of savings in terms of like the DFS lineups that you could build with Bryson as opposed to Scottie. Now, what ended up happening is I nailed the bottom as good as you possibly could have nailed the bottom. And I still ended up losing to Scottie Scheffler lineups because the lineups that won were the Scottie Scheffler lineups that played all of my guys at the bottom, but just had Scottie Scheffler in there instead of Bryson. I will tell you right now, I haven't made a decision this week in terms of where I'm going in DFS. How it stands now to me, do I think that the difference in pricing between Scottie and Bryson, like obviously I feel this way if I'm picking Bryson to beat Scottie straight up this week in the with Scottie market. Like, I think Bryson can beat Scottie this week. I'm taking Scottie on straight up. So obviously I think in DFS that if they are at somewhat similar ownership, you can build better DFS lineups with Bryson DeChambeau. The only question for me like I know for a fact I'm going to have 50% Bryson lineups at whatever ownership. Don't care. I just think Bryson is winning. The question for me is the other 50% of my lineups, are they going to be Scottie lineups or are they going to be balanced lineups where I start with Rom and maybe play a lot of Rom and Collin and that's probably the, you know, the next question for me that we'll talk about now. But like, what's your temperature of the room on who you think is actually going to win this tournament? Like I saw on Twitter this morning, you bet Rom. So I assume that's your guy, but like, how do you feel about Bryson this week? And, you know, do you kind of feel like it's a 3-horse race?
I do. I would still throw Rory in. I would honestly still throw Ludvig in. I feel like the last couple of weeks we've seen some signs that he may be returning to form. But yeah, I mean, of these guys at the top, I would take Rom, Scottie, and Bryson against the field. I think just the way it's set up, obviously the way that all three of them are playing, the way that Rory is kind of not playing great now. Xander, he really hasn't recovered from the injury. Don't have to worry about a bunch of other guys that have been relevant. Like, don't worry about JT. Don't worry about Cantlay. Like, I don't think those guys scare me at all. So yeah, I think it's a pretty small group of guys who can win this week.
Sorry, I was just catching up on the chat. Okay, so you bet Rom at 12-1.
Yep.
Talk about the 9K range this week has JT, Cantlay, Åberg, Morikawa. So
Collin.
So it's a pretty small 9K range compared to the US Open. Okay, so the US Open,
I mean,
US Open has 17 guys above 9.
Want to have the Cantlay? Yeah, I don't want to have the Cantlay conversation again. You know, sort of where I stand there. He's just not right. Just not playing well this year. Like really, he should not even be in this tier of player right now. I would have him with that sort of Fleetwood Hovland range. I think. If I had to pick one of these guys who I said he's most likely to be in contention on Sunday, I think it would still be Collin. He's got a great U.S. Open record, obviously. I don't think he'll get in much trouble, but I also trust his short game the least out of all these guys. So I will have more Ludvig than anybody else in this range. Easy to pair with Rom, easy to pair with Bryson. Can't really pair him with Scottie, but I think a lot of Rom Åberg starts is where I'm leaning this week.
So you would put Ludvig over Morikawa, Cantlay, and JT.
I will have more of him. Than those three. Yes.
I'm still deciding between those three. I think Morikawa, Ludvig, Cantlay. Statistically this week, in terms of like the win probability that I have in my head, when I think about Cantlay, Ludvig, and Morikawa, I do think that I'm going to decide between one of those three. And I do think that one of those three is going to have a really sick week. I just haven't figured out which one of those three. Maybe it ends up being multiple of those three, but I haven't figured out which one of those three it's going to be.
Yeah. And look, with the pricing the way it is, like I was mentioning, like these Rom Åberg teams, I can still get Bryson on that team pretty easily, right? So like, you tell me that I can get Rom and Åberg, who I think will both be a little bit underowned this week, and still get, possibly the favorite or second favorite in Bryson at a pretty reasonable price point. Like, yeah, I'm going to have a lot of those teams.
I actually think that getting that question right could be the key in DFS this week. Like, I really do think that between Cantlay, Morikawa, and Ludvig, one of those guys is going to finish top 5. One of those guys could win. Like, I actually
Cantlay, so
you don't think you would put Cantlay as the last between those three?
Yeah, I just don't know. Yeah, he's just not playing well. Like, obviously played well.
He is playing well though.
The ball striking's there, but he never puts it together. Like, he had a decent showing at the Truist, but again, he kind of backdoored that with a 65 on Sunday. He hasn't been in contention since, I don't know, the Amex? Like, when was he like last?
Cantlay?
Yeah, like in contention, in the mix.
Truist. He had 2 putts on the back 9 on the 16th and 17th hole to tie what would have been the lead.
Yeah.
Truist. He hit shots of real confidence at the Truist, I would say. And I think that first of all, Cantlay hasn't finished outside of the top 15 in a US Open in 5 US Opens. Like, Kyle, I'm excited to argue with you about this on Wednesday. Cantlay is objectively a very good US Open player, and he has been very good in US Opens. He's finished top 15 in 5 straight US Opens. Like, that's pretty difficult to do. The only 2 guys over the last 5 years that have been better in US Opens outside of Patrick Cantlay in terms of the ability to consistently finish in the top 15 have been Rory McIlroy and the guy that we are just for some reason not talking about and is probably the forgotten elite this week. And that's Xander Schauffele, who has played in 8 US Opens and has not finished outside of the top 15 on a USGA setup in his entire career. I'm not playing Xander. I don't think that Xander can hit fairways. I think that it's doing a disservice to not mention him, though. I
agree. Yeah. I just don't think he's ever fully recovered from the injury that he was battling. He just hasn't looked sharp. Like, he had 1 good week of iron play, a couple good weeks of iron play, but it just hasn't looked sharp.
Okay. Do you feel like we have adequately covered the top of the board? Are you ready to move
small
down?
range. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Talk to me about the 8K range.
Yeah. I mean, obviously only 5 guys here. Not a lot. I would say for me, my favorite target, I think will be pretty popular this week. It's going to be Neiman. Obviously just won again on Live for the 4th time. He even spotted the field. I think he was 3 over after 2 holes in round 1, and he still won pretty easily. So just playing great. He finally had a decent showing at a major, 8th at the PGA. I think that's really what we've been waiting for from him. I think he's priced low enough that, again, he could be the 3rd guy in your lineup here really, really easily. So I think Neiman number 1, probably Tommy Fleetwood number 2, elite US Open record, just uber consistent, playing great this year. Really 0 interest in these other 3.
Shut up, Dave. Neiman's not insanely underpriced. He has 1 top 10 in a major championship ever. He's not insanely
He's like the 10th guy on the board. He's fine. But for a number of reasons, 0 interest in Hovland, Brooks, and Matsuyama. I think there's better options, cheaper. All of them, just not playing well right now, especially Brooks. Neiman and Fleetwood would be the only places that I look here.
Kyle, Cantlay's been a good DFS play this season. I play Cantlay a ton this week, and he's been really good for me. I mean, he has he reps 12th place finishes.
He better be your 3rd guy in, is what Kyle's saying.
Fair enough. I think if we are talking about that upside to win the golf tournament, I'm with you, Kyle. Do not get me wrong. I think Cantlay has been, for me, the 2nd most disappointing player on the PGA Tour all season, but that's just because I have high expectations for him. I think that Cantlay, if you look at Cantlay's results, his results this year have not been all that different from Tommy Fleetwood's. The difference is I expect Cantlay to be winning these tournaments, and I don't really expect Tommy Fleetwood to be winning these tournaments. So Cantlay feels more disappointing to me, but he's been good this year. He has been. He just hasn't been winning. What do you think the ownership is in the 8K range? I was asking this question in the chat too, because I'm really curious about how the ownership stacks up between Morikawa, Cantlay, and Ludvig. But who do you think is the highest owned player in the 8K range? Where do you think the ownership goes? Because I think it goes to Neiman and Fleetwood. And I think JT this week is going to be 5%.
I would say Neiman and Fleetwood would probably both be between 15 and 18%. I don't think anybody there is getting up to 20. Brooks and Hideki will for sure be under 10. Brooks might be under 5. That's how bad he's playing. But he's a name at a very, very cheap price and can be your third, fourth, fifth guy in your lineup. But yes, Fleetwood and Neiman should both be higher than JT and Cantlay this week, I think, in terms of ownership.
Natalie, I just want to talk about the ownership in the 9K range first, one thing at a time. I'm getting there. In series, I actually did talk about this on I don't think I mentioned this on the Sunday morning podcast. We just signed a lease for a new home. It's awesome. So shout out to us. I did mention that in the Discord, Natalie. Dave can actually back me up on that. And I told Kyle immediately as well. But we just signed a lease for a new home. Insanely excited. It was not an easy market. We had been looking for a couple of weeks, and the house that we got is an absolute banger. So shout out to us for getting a new home. We will be moving in the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Dave, for confirming and having my back. Okay. I agree. I think that there's going to be tremendous opportunity on Brooks, Hovland, and Hideki. What do you feel about Hovland this week? Because I think that Hovland on these golf courses with thick rough, I actually am not totally sold this week that like short game is going to be a hugely necessary part of the equation this week. I think these are really big greens. And if you're asking me like, what is a skill that I think I would potentially rather have this week at Oakmont between being an awesome chipper or being an awesome lag putter, I'm taking lag putting 7 days a week. And Hovland has a really solid resume on fast bent grass greens. Like he has putted very well at Muirfield Village before. He's putted very well at Oak Hill. He's putted very well at Olympia Fields. And all of those golf courses have very fast bent grass greens and very thick rough around the greens.
So I've been Hovland probably as much as you have over the last month or so, because the iron play has certainly come back. The putting was coming back. And we just haven't seen the results since Valspar. Doesn't have a good U.S. Open record, no top tens. My biggest concern with him is he just hasn't been good off the tee really since the start of the year. He was really solid last year off the tee. Just hasn't been there this year. His distance is down a little bit. The accuracy is down a little bit. And I think if he's not the best short game player, not the best iron player, and he's, only a little above average off the tee, I just feel like there's a top 30 brewing here for him, and probably not much upside beyond that.
I don't know what to do with Hovland this week. I think he is top 5 upside. I also think he has a real floor. I could see Hovland missing the cut at this golf course easily. I could see him losing like 5 strokes around the green here and shooting 80. Seriously, sure. I think that the range of outcomes this week for Hovland is very, very high. And I'm nowhere near close to deciding. Same with Hideki. I've struggled to get Hideki right this year, straight up. Like I wasn't on him when he won at the Century. I've been on him quite a few other times this year, and it really hasn't gone that well, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, RB, he hasn't really played that well this year outside of the win at the Century. Like he really doesn't have a lot of great finishes this year outside of the Century. And I get it. Play Hideki at times when he doesn't make sense. I bet Hideki at the Masters this year when he was low owned and he was terrible. I played Hideki at Quail Hollow this year when he was low owned and he was fucking terrible.
But yeah, and he's also a guy though who goes on these heaters. And so like I don't want to chase an out of form Hideki. I would rather chase him, for the weeks and month after he won. Like before the Century, he finished second in Japan. He won a playoff event, right? So like, yeah, I would rather play him when he's in form, and he is about as far out of form as Hideki gets.
Yeah, agreed. Let's talk about the 7K range, because there are some guys that I think are going to be ruthlessly high owned in this range. And I think
Mhm.
there are some crazy misprices here. Like I will just say straight up, Shane Lowry, underpriced. Sepp Straka, underpriced. I mean, in terms of like ranking, they aren't that underpriced because you have
Mhm.
to remember there really aren't that many guys on top of them. But to me, I'm surprised Straka and Lowry aren't in the 8K range at least
Mhm.
based on how good I mean, you could make the case that Straka has been the third best player on the PGA Tour this year. And then I would also argue that Russell Henley and Corey Connors, statistically, those guys have been top 12 golfers on the PGA Tour this year,
Mhm.
and they're priced a lot lower than that.
Yeah, as I was going through this, so yeah, kind of the first thing is I had the same thought as you. I think Lowry and Straka are going to be the first two guys in a lot of people's lineups this week. Both playing great. I think both can fit the course very well. Obviously, Lowry has played this golf course well before, and both in very, very good form. I kind of had the thought going through this range with every single person, like, I don't want to play that person. Oh, wait, but they're priced so low that I kind of have to play them. So I think all these guys are underpriced. I would say beyond Lowry and Straka, the two that I like the most, who I think should get the most ownership, would be Keegan and Russell Henley.
Agreed.
Obviously not bombers. Well, I guess with Keegan, he hits it far enough. Russell Henley, not a bomber, but just in terms of talent and how they've played this year, yeah, I would play those two guys over about anybody else in this range.
What do you think the ownership threshold is going to be, though? Because that would be my next question with these guys is like, I will tell you right now, I think that Lowry, I mean, these are going to be the Scottie builds, by the way. Like,
Sure.
I'm just, in terms of lineup construction, I'm very confident that the predominant Scottie construction is going to be Scottie Scheffler and then all of these guys in the 7K range, Lowry, Straka, because I think a lot of DFS players are going to look at it this week and say, okay, well, I can get the best player in the field on here. And then in that same lineup, I can get guys in the 7K range that are legitimately underpriced and have legitimate win equity. And like, I think honestly, if you play a Scottie Scheffler lineup that has Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka, Russell Henley, and Corey Connors in there, that lineup feels amazing. Like that lineup does feel like you have four other guys that could finish top five. I'm actually going to build it right now while you talk, but like, what's the ownership threshold on those guys where you start to say to yourself from a game theory perspective, this is getting too much for me?
Yeah. So I don't necessarily look at it that way because I'm going to hand build so I'm probably going to make between 20 and 40 teams in some capacity. I don't know exactly what the number will be, but I will hand build these. Right. So it's more about kind of limiting my options and what the builds look like. So I can tell you right now, I'm only going to play four guys that are in this range. I'm going to play Lowry. I'm going to play Straka. I'm going to play Keegan, and I'm going to play Sam Burns. I will mix and match them. I will make sure that they are not in those standard Scottie builds, but I'm just going to limit the number of players I play here. I think they're all good plays. Like they're all underpriced here.
They're all underpriced.
So I'm just going to pick my four favorites. And if I end up with a Lowry Keegan build, it's certainly not going to be with Scottie and Neiman, right? Like I just think you have to just make those decisions when you hand build. So I'm just going to limit this because I also think there are just as many good plays in the 6K range. And I want as much win equity in the 9 and 10Ks as I can fit in a lineup.
Totally agree. So for example, I think that a very common build this week is going to be Scottie Scheffler, and then three of those guys in the 7K range. And I'm probably with you. I think I'm probably going to end up choosing three. Like if I go through the 7K range, to me, there are five guys that are in this range that are just legitimately significantly underpriced to me. Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka, Keegan Bradley, Corey Connors, Russell Henley. Those five guys to me in the 7K range are bad prices. I think that
Yep.
you could make the argument that every single one of those players should be in the 8K range, including Keegan Bradley, who I think is one of the best bets on the board at 100-1. I'm probably going to end up choosing 3 of those 5 guys and fading the other 2. But like, you look at this lineup here right now, and I think this is probably the best way to play Scottie Scheffler. But like, I basically put in Scottie, Lowry, Straka, Keegan. One guy I liked in the low 6s, Ryan Gerard, your Ryan Gerard, who I actually think is a great play this week, and then Taylor Pendrith. And that lineup to you feels like outside of Scottie Scheffler, you also have 3 guys that can finish top 5.
Sure. And I think the other build, exactly like what you're saying, is you take 4 of those guys, like you take a Lowry, Straka, Keegan, Connors, whatever you want to do, and you click Bryson and Neiman, and that's very close to 50K. So I think, yes, I agree. I think even though the 7K range is so small this week, I think the majority of lineups will have at least 2 and upwards of 4 from that 7K range. So I will make sure I am building a lot of my teams with 1 or 2 or possibly 0 from the 7K range.
Yeah. Fair take, Ken. I haven't decided on which of those, which 3 out of those 5 I'm going to play. I legitimately, this is what always seems like happens at the majors with like the underpriced guys is, let's say there's 5 of them in the 7K range. Let's take those 5 guys that I highlighted. Honestly, 2 of them are going to be the nuts. 2 of them are probably not going to hurt you and not going to help you that much either and finish like T28. And then one of them's going to absolutely suck. That's what it feels like.
I agree. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of names in here that people are very familiar with and just should not, like, you should not be clicking Finau here. I don't think you should be clicking Jordan Spieth here.
Why no Finau? He's awesome at US Opens. Awesome. Yeah, he's been really good at US Opens. Finau's been very good on hard golf courses.
Sure. Yeah. Trust me. I considered betting him like a month ago, and I think the upside is just not there. I see him putting with one hand on TV. The off the tee game is just not at the level of these elite players. Look, if Finau's tied for 20th, it would be very reasonable. I just I want more upside here for sure.
Let's talk about the. I deserve an award for navigating the chat questions and speaking coherently about this on the show and still providing good information on lineup construction. Talk to me about the 6K range. Like, who do you think are the nuts in the 6K range? I'm going to be pretty discerning here because these plays were the plays that won us all of the money at Quail Hollow. And these are for the insiders. So this is the range where I'm going to start being pretty discerning about who I like. And you can join Inside Sports Network this week. It's $7. I don't want to hear shit about this. We have provided hours and hours of free content. If you want this type of stuff, spend like $7 this week and join us for the week at Inside Sports Network.
Yeah. So I think first glance, a lot of guys here who we've played a lot this year at much higher prices. So that's the good news. I think for me, the first place that I think you have to look here is at 6,500. You've got Pendrith, you've got Cameron Young, you've got Davis Thompson, you've got Benny On, like popular names, good course fits. I think Pendrith will both be very, very popular. Probably Pendrith a little bit more.
Pendrith will be very popular.
Yeah. And I think Cameron Young will be too. Just look, he was 17% last week. So, I mean, what's he going to be this week where he almost got in the playoff? The only other guy who I think ownership could get a little bit out of hand on is going to be Harris English. People have bet him. There are a lot of futures on him.
I agree with you. I don't think it's that easy, guys. Like Harris English was the nuts for us at Quail Hollow. He won us all the money. He won our guy Rick $70K. That was you can't just get rich on Harris English at every major at 6.8K. Like it doesn't work that way. It's not that easy, guys. He's
got 3 top 10s in the last 5 US Opens.
He's the number one guy pretty much on the tip charts this week. Like everybody's betting Harris English. And I'm sorry, guys, it doesn't work that way. Harris English isn't just this replenishing tree of money. Like Harris English is still Harris English. He's not a replenishing tree of money that is going to make you rich at every single major.
Yeah. And like, look, I'll be honest, like I'm just not going to play Harris English. I'm not going to play last week's winner, Ryan Fox. I just don't feel like chasing guys who I think will be a little bit more popular. I am going to play Cam Young and Taylor Pendrith in some capacity. I also think that this is a good spot for a couple of the low price live guys. I would play Dustin Johnson this week. I don't recommend everybody doing it, but I will play Dustin Johnson this week. And Carlos Ortiz has quietly been pretty good worldwide for the last year and a half. He's won multiple live events. He won an Asian Tour event. He's pretty much top 10 every week on live right now. Obviously hits the ball plenty far. Really good all-around player. Like we saw it on the PGA Tour. And he's at like 6,400. I like him a lot this week. He's going to be maybe 2% owned. So Young, Pendrith, Ortiz. I get the Harris English thing, but I'm just going to fade the chalk there.
Totally agree. I will say this. The one guy that I will throw out that I do have some serious interest in, I really like Grazerman. And I'm going to say that with the ISN family knowing that I am not a Grazerman guy at all. My numbers tend to not like Grazerman one bit. But one thing that I really like about Grazerman this week, he's an absolutely filthy putter. And I think once you start getting into the 6K range, I am looking for 2 things in the 6K range this week, really. Are you an awesome putter, or are you an awesome driver? And that being of an awesome driver, I think can be accomplished in 2 ways. You could either accomplish that with just being a guy that absolutely mints fairways at an absurd rate, or you could do it the Taylor Pendrith way, where you're just insanely long. And I look at Max Grazerman's putting stats. You know, I look at the fact that look at Max Grazerman's putting stats on fast greens, his putting stats on bent grass greens, his putting from 5 to 15 feet. Like, I just think Grazerman is a fucking dirty putter. And I think that, you know, Denny is probably the guy that's going to get all of the ownership in this range for being the great putter. But Grazerman hits the ball longer than Denny and is a better driver than Denny and has been just as good of a putter as Denny. So that's the only guy I'm giving. I hope I didn't just nuke Grazerman's ownership through the roof this week. But like I look at Grazerman's course fit, and it's really appealing to me on this golf course.
Yeah. And a couple more names. So again, like if you're talking about off the tee, plus distance, really good putter. I mean, we just saw Davis Riley finish second at a major. I would play him again. I think that's a good course fit here. And then at 6K exactly, Mark Leishman's been playing really well. Qualified. He recently won down at Doral, right? Long, tough golf course. I think that's a name that will probably get a little bit of steam, but you know, at this price point, like we're talking like 6% on Leishman, maybe. So probably less than that, but yeah, Leishman, Davis Riley, I think there's some options down here.
I don't have anyone else to talk to. We're already butting up against an hour. So if anybody in the chat has questions, now is your time to throw a question in the chat for us to get to before we wrap up. But the vast majority of the discourse and the question answering that I will be doing will be in our Discord. I'll be hanging out there in and out for the rest of the afternoon. I'll be on Brian's show this evening as well. for Tap and Birdie. But is there anyone else in the 5K range that you want to highlight? We have a question here from Ben on Jordan Smith.
Yeah, he is definitely one of the better ones for sure. Obviously been around a while, has a top 10 at a major. I think the PGA back at Lowry, if I remember correctly. Plus distance, plus iron play, just an atrocious short game though. So that definitely worries me. But if you want the Euro play of the week, it's definitely Guido. Our Discord will be very familiar with Guido. Been playing well in Europe and 5th and 14th in his only 2 U.S. Opens. So obviously something he likes about the setup, doesn't shy away from anything, plenty long off the tee, really good long iron play. So he's my gummy player of the week.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And obviously lots of Corn Ferry guys here, lots of college kids here. So I'll be in the Discord if people have questions on all those guys.
Ben James was poking out to me a little bit.
He's great. Yeah. A UVA kid. He's got a very long PGA Tour career ahead of him for sure.
Okay. There's one guy that I need to know your pronunciation of because I cannot wait on the Wednesday show for Kyle to attempt to pronounce this guy. Do you know who I'm talking about? It is the guy, like I'm looking at the DraftKings pricing and he is 2 below Guido. Oh, by the way, I actually really like Matt McCarty this week. That's another banger play. He was awesome last week. Kyle, I'm 100% with you on McCarty this week. I think he's a great play. Who is the guy that is 2 below Guido in the 5K range? So he's in between Pavon and Hubbard.
So my understanding is it's Jacques Kruijswijk is how I would say it. He's been around for a while. He's in his mid-30s now. He recently won the Magical Kenya Open, obviously got through the qualifier in Europe, bombs it off the tee. Just overall not a great player, though. So I have no interest there.
Okay. That's it for us. I've got a bunch more content to get to today, but actually not true. I will be on Tap and Birdie as well. But if you want more of my content this week, go to InsideSportsNetwork.com. As Chris mentioned, it's $12. Again, even if you don't like hanging out with us or think we're stupid, but you play DFS, I think you should still join this week because you will want to know what all the other people are doing and talking about, and you will want the best ownership projections in the industry as well. I do my first ownership run through. There'll be 3 of them this week: Tuesday early afternoon, Wednesday kind of midday, and then Wednesday night before our show. It's the best ownership you're going to get anywhere. I put a lot of effort into it. I think that ownership really, really matters this week, particularly if you're playing the Millie Maker. So InsideSportsNetwork.com. We would love to have you as part of the team. Thank you, RB, as always.
Good luck this week, buddy.
Cheers.